Guys, I've done one guide already on steel ships. Remember, first of all, hello YouTube, hello Twitch. Remember, this is my subjective view. In my opinion, what are the upsides, downsides, why I think the ship is very good or not. We have done the guide for steel, which is going to be online on YouTube shortly. And we're now going to do a research biro one. We're also going to do a coal one on a different day, but today we're going to do research biro. You have a total of... How many research biro ships do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Fusiak has just subscribed.
11 research biro ships. Fusiak, thank you so much for the prime, by the way. Appreciate it and welcome. I first gonna start with the ones I have, and then I'm gonna move on to these two bad boys here. So... this is gonna be very interesting because I know a lot of people will disagree. Slava. Is Slava an amazing ship? I remember back in the day when it came out or was in testing and everybody was like the worst Bane, the most brutal ship ever. But over the time, people probably understood how the ship works and what you can do against it. Yes, Slava has the most insane guns in the game when it comes to pen. And the most insane vertical dispersion as well as a BB. Although the horizontal one kind of sucks, but that's not a bad thing. Now, is Slava overpowered? In my opinion, it's not. It is very, very, very strong against people who don't know the game and just show broadside the whole time. But people who decently know about armor values and so on can counter the ship very, very hard. Simply because it cannot overmatch 30mm. A lot of cruisers have 30mm on tier 10, tier 9 and 10. And that way you can play very, very easily against it. It also has a very... I think it has the weakest alpha strike of all tier 10 BBs. If I'm not wrong either. Besides 6-barrel BBs like Incomparable and so on. But they have faster reload. Again, Slava is really a glass cannon. It's like the railgun in the back. It can punish battleships, cruisers and so on completely. But it's very hard to do so against those in targets. And you can outplay it quite easily. In that way, I think it's a decent ship. But it heavily depends on how good can you position yourself to get those juicy broadsides, or how bad the enemy is. Because against potatoes, it's very good. That's true. Also, it says low survivability, which is kind of a lie, honestly. Because yes, the ship has a nose that you can overmatch, which is 25mm, which means you can overmatch it with every BB on tier 10, besides, I think, Mecklenburg. The problem with it is, you can only pen it there. You cannot citadel it with any battleship in the game, in the front. There is a hidden plate that people don't see in-game, but you can see it with other tools. That is there. And why? Why is it hidden? Don't ask me. Wargaming decided to hide it. But we all know about it. And it basically makes it uncitadable from the front. But you can get penned, which is still a lot of damage you can receive. Also, it is fairly tanky if you angle it, because the side armor is... let me see, I think it is... What is the side armor actually? It's more than 32, I'm pretty sure. Let's quickly look. I think it's like 50 or something. Ah, here, 150 and yeah. So, if you like play like this, you can see this part is pretty much immune. I mean, 32 can be overmatched, but the side armor can ricochet any BB AP. So, it is kind of a lie. It's still fairly tanky, honestly. And again, you cannot citadel it from the front. Overall, a decent ship, but not overpowered. I know there's gonna be people, yeah, Slava is overpowered, but it really isn't. Now we're moving to Ohio. And oh god, oh boy, is that a difference. First of all, if I had to choose between Slava and Ohio, I would take Ohio all day, all night long. Ohio is pretty much a better Montana. You get overmatch, 30mm overmatch, you get really good turret traverse on your guns, you get a decent reload, you get decent accuracy, you have the whole of a Monty, which is pretty decent as well. You get a weaker heal when it comes to healing potential, but the heal has only 40-second cooldown, which makes it very good again. Overall, probably one of the best BBs in tier 10, because it can do everything. It can push. It also has very good secondaries, by the way, which you only need to invest 1 point, and that's range. Because they're fairly accurate and just act as like two 11.3 km flamethrowers on both sides. Like you can build a hybrid build on it, where you go tank build, but you put in the third slot secondary range, because you cannot buff the accuracy in the third slot with USBBs anyway. Meanwhile, on the 6th slot on USBBs, you take 11% dispersion module, and you still get really good dispersion. Overall, Ohio is one of the best and most fantastic ships in the game. The only downside, like any USBB, is the shell velocity, which is very slow. But other than that, it is absolutely crazy and a very good ship. Slava, Ohio, always Ohio from my part, if you're unsure. Sebastopol. Kind of, it's a very interesting ship. You get 6 guns, they're very accurate. You do have quite a bad reload of them though. And you also got a pretty nutty accuracy. The problem with the ship is, unlike all other Soviet heavy cruisers on tier 10, besides, of course, no, is Nevsky a light cruiser? Nevsky counts as a light cruiser as far as I'm aware. Anyway, instead of Stalingrad in Petro, this ship doesn't have 50mm plating or 40mm plating. It is covered in 30 and 25 in the nose. So you will get overmatched BBBs quite heavily. It is, again, fairly stealthy. The guns can hit, but you do have you have a really poor DPM per minute because the reload is so long. One other thing that stands out on it is it has a zombie heal. And by zombie heal, I mean it has a zombie heal. It is not a super heal, but it is. How do I mean it? It's a normal heal that is insanely long. It doesn't heal like a Minotaur or like a Conqueror, big chunks fast, but it just heals you slowly over a long time. Which in the end is the same result, but you don't get it instantly. It comes with the battle. It kind of, if you don't have a damage con, it kind of prevents you from taking flood or fire damage in a way that your HP stays the same and it's not really dropping. But personally, I think the other heals are better. So Sebastopol is a mixed bag. It's okay. Nothing too special. Is it broken? No, by far not. Is it strong? In the right situations, it can be strong. But overall, I would take a lot of other tactical cruisers over this ship. Moving on to Kohlberg. First of all, before I judge this ship has a very high skill gap. I think under the right hands, Kohlberg can be a really strong ship and an absolute monster. But it comes down with two things. Is the CV in the game or not? Because the CV can ruin your experience so hard in the ship. While without it, you can roam freely kind of in the map and help a lot. And do massive amount of damage. Now, this, people would think it's like a Smolensk, so you can throw broadside. Because it's a very lightly armored cruiser, but you can't. This ship gets Citadel to Oblivion. You don't get overpenned a lot, so it's very punishing to get caught in a mistake with this ship. What makes it crazy is that it has one of the most brutal AP and HE DPNs in the game, and you just can rain fire. You also have very good maneuverability and a speed boost, which allows you to duke battleship shells very good. But you need to know a lot about map positioning. You need to have way outs, islands where you can go dark. Even better, like, even in the best scenario, you would have a smoke gearing with you, for example, that could, like, make you infinitely stronger, but you can't rely on this. In solo games, you need to have a lot of map awareness, you don't end up in a crossfire, and you don't die. Kohlberg is a really fun ship to play, if you can master it, and it's very strong, but it has a very, very high skill gap. And it's not even broken then. It's like, it can be very strong, but people can play around it as well. I love the ship. I played not that often actually, but I do love playing it when I do. But it's very hard to play, so I would not recommend it for a player that's, for myself, thinks he's not that capable. And you need a lot to learn about it. So, is it strong? Definitely. Do I recommend it for everybody? No. Now, Druid. And this is where a lot of people, especially in YouTube, I'm pretty sure, will throw stones at me. I think the ship is terrible. Now I know there's a lot of people who think Druid is a really big monster and so on. It's so strong, but I think Druid is garbage. Now let me explain. This thing has absolutely disgusting AP DPM, and it will just shred everything that shows broadside to it for a decent amount of time. That's true. I'm not denying it. But it has so many downsides. First of all, it has one of the worst concealments on tier 10. Just to put it into perspective, Elbing has better concealment than this ship, if you build into concealment. Second of all, you have only guns in the front. Third of all, your turrets can break very easily. Fourth of all, you don't have torpedoes, so BBs are not really afraid of pushing you. And last but not least, all your gunpowder is in the front, which means if you run away, you can't always utilize it perfectly, and you are disgustingly slow. Yes, you have insane DPM if people throw broadside to you and they let you farm you, but this ship has so many weaknesses overall that it can't, like, most of these with better concealment can counter you by just running away, not getting caught. You are spotted, you're like suffering, you can't catch up to them because you're very slow, and they can play around it. Other DDs have other gimmicks that outplay you as well, mainly radar or better hydros, and you can't really do something about it. Plus, last but not least, if there's really a fight going on in the last moment, if a DD turns away, what can be really frustrating for a Druid player is if he drives away, bow away from you, perfectly angled, because then you need to land always on the superstructure or perfectly on the turret to do damage. And that's just so frustrating, because you cannot damage him over the whole ship unlike HE would be able to. And I really don't like it. You have so many downsides. It can be fun to play, I agree. It can also melt things if you catch them off guard, and you can farm cruisers. And if battleships show broadside as well, you can farm a lot of damage. But overall, I don't think the ship has a lot of impact. I think it's slow, and you can counter it with so many ways that I think Druid is not a good ship. Now, everybody who has fun with Druid, I'm glad you have it. I just think for most of the people, it's not really a good ship. Now, to a complete opposite, Vampire 2. I love this ship. It's my favorite DD on tier 10. I think it's absolutely amazing because it is things that I miss from Daring are on this ship. Now, I'll compare to Daring because it's pretty much the same ship, just you have one more torpedo tube on Daring. So, this thing has higher DPM than Daring. It has a crawling smoke screen that can be one of the longest smoke screens in the game if you build for it, and it has a 5 km hydro. It also has torps with more range, but only one torp launcher, and it is faster thanks to speed boost. And this is exactly the things I dislike about the Daring. I think Daring is an absolutely amazing ship, and you do get technically better survivability because you have a heal, and Vampire doesn't have a heal. But you don't get this godlike 5 km hydro, you don't get the nice crawling smoke screen, and last but not least, you don't get a speed boost. Daring has a very big problem nowadays that it's very slow. Just like Druid, it's insanely slow, and most battleships can catch up on you even. Sounds ridiculous, but all the new battleships we get pretty much in the game nowadays go 36 to 40 knots. With the right builds and brisk on it. Don't get me started on brisk as well. So, it's very hard to use your speed to your advantage then. While Vampire can compensate with the speed while having a speed boost that gives it this tiny edge that Daring is missing. I just love this ship. I think you can play it so well, you can utilize its strength, you can farm battleships, you can play decently against cruisers. You have torpedoes that can be launched without being in radar ranges, kind of. And I just love cap contest. I just love knife fighting the Ds with it. I'm mostly in the upper hand with it. Unless there's ships like Smoland or Ragnar, but I don't take these fights necessarily. And overall, very good ship. Really disgusting HE DPM. AP DPM as well. It has the improved angles just like Daring, so very good AP, very good HE. Definitely recommended and my favorite DD on tier 10. Now we have 3 ships left, which is Illinois, Siegfried, and Paulo Emilio. When Illinois came out, I thought it was borderline broken, because what you basically get is an Iowa, which is more tanky, in a way that the Citadel is under the water, like completely under the water. The only thing you lose is HP. You do get 2 free guns, and you can pump out. It's like, imagine it not like a battleship, imagine it like a cruiser that is super beefy and super tanky. And then you can, like, It's like one of the tankiest cruisers in the game, kind of it. You need to see it like this. It's a battleship, but it has cruiser DPM. And it can be so fun to play, to brawl with it. It can be so fun to play spam on long range and just farm people down. It is very good. Sure, you lose those big chunks of damage with battleship AP. But first of all, you don't care about accuracy so much because the accuracy is decent. And you can pump out shells every 8 seconds, which is fantastic. And also, you blab cruisers. In especially closer ranges, you need to remember these are technically 12 Des Moines guns. You have the improved AP angles, you can just completely annihilate cruisers and brawls without losing to them. And also in brawls with battleships, you can do massive amount of damage as well. It's a great ship, highly recommended, very strong. A really good credit grinding machine as well, because it's a tier 9 premium. Now Siegfried is following. Siegfried, how can I say it? Siegfried, I liked Siegfried, but at the same time it's not that good of a ship. You do have good accuracy and you have 380 guns, but you're not that tanky because you don't have a turtleback that works. Like, it has a turtleback, but it doesn't really work, so if you show broadside you get citadel. And on top of it, the deck armor is only 30mm, where you can get also a lot of overmatches. The front is 27, I think, so also overmatches. Like, if you choose between A-Gear and Siegfried, I'll probably just go for A-Gear, simply for the fact because it's way easier to acquire 1 million free XP than this amount of research pyro. You gotta remember, getting research pyro points is really exhausting. And regrinds are really annoying to deal so. So, it's an okay ship, but it's not bad. It's not great. It's a decent ship. If you really just want to collect something, take it. But I would not. I would take a few other ones before it here, as I mentioned before. Now, Paulo Emilio. Paulo Emilio. It's not a ship for everybody. It is pretty much a ship that YOLOs. Oh, Ege is now coal. I forgot. Oh, Ege is now coal. Okay, I forgot about that. Still, I would probably go Ege. The coal is still easier to get than research pyro points. Anyway, Paulo Emilio is a very interesting ship because basically you have a ship that is perfectly made for YOLOs. You have a crawling not crawling smoke screen. You have this Italian smoke screen that moves with your ship. You have an insane speed boost. You have devastating torpedoes and kind of decent main guns, although the main gun reload is very long. So basically, it's a ship where you want to smoke up, you rush somebody. In the optimal point, you will never get spotted. You kill him and never get spotted, and do it a few times in a battle. Now, this not always works. You need to be very careful when choosing a target. What would possibly happen afterwards? Is there a radar nearby? Is there a CV nearby? Can I make it out of the situation? So, it's a really fun ship if you can make it work. If you can get the YOLOs off. But most people I see are just doing one YOLO. Most of the time they fail and then they die for nothing. So, it's definitely a fun ship and it can be very strong, but you really need to understand where and when I can use it. Against Lu Yang it sucks. Yeah, again, you need to know what opponents you're fighting, where you go. Like, for example, it can absolutely devastate the Lu Yang if it doesn't have a Hydro. If the Lu Yang has the Hydro ready, of course, he's gonna know it and it's gonna be very awful for you. But overall, a fun ship. I can recommend it if you want to try something new. It's not easy to master. And it's not really broken or something, but it can be fun to play. And now we're gonna go to the last two ships up here. First of all, I'm not gonna judge Hector. I haven't played Hector enough. I played it one game and that was a pretty decent game. But I'm leaving Hector out for you guys because I have not really played it yet. I still need to buy it for research points. And to know if I like it or not, what is good about it, what is bad about it, you need to ask somebody else for it. So I can't judge Hector. I don't know what people say about it, if it's rather bad or good. But up to you. Now Gibraltar on the other hand, definitely not recommended from me. I think it's pretty much, imagine you have a Goliath and you make Goliath garbage. And that's Gibraltar. Now let me explain. Gibraltar has only AP. It doesn't have HE. The AP is really good in the way that you have improved AP angles and it can just smash DDs And it's also pretty decent against broadsiding cruisers and can do quite some damage to battleships. The problem is, Goliath can do exactly the same with HG and you get also fires on it. So, it's kind of and Goliath AP can also work if you show broadside. What people don't know is, Gibraltar also has worse armor than Goliath. You are way easier to punish. And the one gimmick you have, you also don't have torpedoes as well. You lose a lot of things. And one thing that's also really bad about it is, you have a smoke screen. Now this sounds great in the first place, that having a smoke screen as a cruiser is kind of cool. But most cruisers that have smoke screens usually have a very low smoke firing penalty. The problem with Gibraltar is it's not very not very low. I think it's something between 8 and 9 kilometer, I'm not sure the exact value, but it's a very high smoke firing penalty, which forces you to play it very, very defensive. And if ADD just comes too close for a second while you're in a smoke screen, you get instantly spotted and BBs can smash you. This is why I really don't like Gibraltar, and I think Goliath is far better, because you don't have the smoke screen, but you have a super heal, which this guy also doesn't get. And overall, you can just play it more versatile. You have HE and AP, and Gibraltar just gives up. You have torpedoes on Goliath. You just give up so many things on Gibraltar. So I don't really recommend this ship at all. I mean, again, it's like a collector's item. It's not bad, but would I take it over like a tech tree counterpart such as Goliath? No, not at all. But yeah, this is like my summarization of the ships. I hope you liked it. It's gonna be uploaded on YouTube soon as well. I gotta get it ready for it. And thank you so much. Next time, we're gonna do, in the next couple of days, we're also gonna do it for cold ships. And then we're good, because then you will have on YouTube a guide about steel ships, you will have a guide about cold ships, and you will have a guide about research pyro ships. Especially for you new players, this might be very interesting. Although research pyro might be not interesting for you, because it's very atrocious to get research points. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Ding!